Good morning, all. We have a great turnout on this lovely, bright, sunny Friday. I could forget this day, but I'll tell you about that. Okay, well, welcome. We're going to dedicate our 1936 Centennial Museum and its marker this morning. So we're glad to have you here. We're going to next have. Well, I shouldn't call him preacher all the time, but he seems to be our resident preacher for the commission. Chip is the pastor over at the First Presbyterian Church.
But I will invite you to pray. Remember that all history is your story. And, to recognize how you have been at work in this place and in this time. And so, Lord, we ask your presence, your blessing, that we would hold this as a holy time. Amen.
We'll have a Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we are first going to take your right hand, place it over your heart. But first we're going to pledge the United States flag. I call them the flag boys, but this is Bill Pavelka, okay, and John Lloyd are over here. And they're so good about raising the flag. So we'll start with me. Okay, our American flag will be first. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll pledge the Texas flag.
Allegiance to
the Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I don't see what is. Okay. Yeah, Ben Molina is just, so we're going to have this.
That'd be fine.
We've got Politico here today. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming with us. He serves on the city council. If you don't know who Ben Molina is, there he is right there. We do, because it's not a very pleasant day to have people out today. But hopefully maybe this will be the only one this summer. We won't have anybody be passing out. Okay. I'm going to turn it over now to Anita Eisenhower, who is our president, CEO, boss of the Nueces County Historical Society.
No, how about the
Commission?
There you go. I didn't think you'd do that, Kathy. But good morning, everyone. And they asked me to do this part because no one can ever get it straight as how long it takes for one of these markers to take place. We were fortunate in this case that there was a young lady who was a student at Texas State University. Her mother is affiliated with Delmar College, and she wrote this as one of her projects. And we were very lucky that Dan Utley, who was with the Texas Historical Commission for many years in the marker program, was her mentor and gave her the inspiration to do this. And we're so pleased that happened. These things just don't say, I want a marker on my building or on a particular subject. It's not that easy. It takes some time for one of these markers to be prepared. Usually it's a minimum of 18 months to get it from the time somebody begins their research, and sometimes it's a great deal longer. But we go through the process of submitting an application to Texas Historical Commission in Austin, and we have to pay $100 of what I call play for them to look at it and decide that it's got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And then they come back and say, yes, we will let you have this. And then it's up for the county to add another $1,800 to that for the marker to be cast at Southwell Foundry in San Antonio. The state writes the inscription. They come back to us, and particularly the person who's done the research, and said, is this right? Is there something we're missing? And you get your opportunity to say yes or no. This one went through rather rapidly. At that point, we now have it in hand. It's ready for dedication. Kathy, so let's carry on.
Okay. Our research presentation this morning, and very kindly, it was accepted the offer. Jim, I know I can't please you because I'm not coming. Okay, this is Dr. James Lyon. He teaches over at Del Mar, and he is a member of our Nueces County Historical Commission.
So I tell my students at Del Mar College that history allows us to understand who we are and how we got to where we're at today. And I think that the Centennial Museum is a prime example of that. And so looking at the research that was done on this extensive research, this Centennial Museum was dedicated May 18th, 1940, and it grew out of the Nueces County Texas Centennial Advisory Committee formed in 1935 to commemorate the upcoming Texas Centennial. Integral to the creation of the museum were Lily Rankin, chair of the Centennial Advisory Board for Nueces County, Mary Louise DeGarmo, founder of the Memorial Museum Association in 1936, and Jeff Bell, manager of the Corpus Christi Chamber of Commerce. Jeff Bell first suggested the museum memorializing General Zachary Taylor's encampment at Corpus Christi as a part of the state's centennial celebration. The hope was that the state and perhaps federal funds would support this endeavor as a part of the state centennial celebration. In the end, the theme of the museum changed, and the $6,553 cost of constructing it was covered by $4,000 from the state's Commission of Control, authorized by the Centennial Advisory Committee, $1,200 from the city of Corpus Christi, which also provided land for the museum's location in South Bluff Park, with the remainder provided by private sector donations. The museum board collected 252 local charter members, including Mrs. Mary E. von Blucher, Mrs. Kate D. Blunzer, Mr. Edwin Flato, Mr. Antonio E. Garcia, Mr. Richard King, Mr. Morris Lichtenstein, and Rabbi Sidney Wolf. Mary DeGarmo was instrumental in raising money for the museum. As publicity chairman, she also wrote a daily column in the Caller and/or Times from 1936 until 1937 to bring and keep this issue before the reading public. Supporters firmly believed in the benefit of a museum. As the narrative application for this marker notes, quote, "A museum offered many positive incentives for Nueces County and Corpus Christi, the narrative of the region, and help establish a sophisticated image that would allow for educational possibilities that would otherwise not be available. The museum would also function as a community center that provided a meeting space for various groups, which might generate patronage to the museum later on. On a broader scale, the museum would attract tourists to visit, which would benefit the local economy." Unquote. DeGarmo became central in the planning of the museum. She envisioned it as addressing three different themes: history, art, and industry, or science. In her mind, the museum could serve cultural and educational purposes for the community. As Dr. George West Deal, president of the Memorial Museum Association, noted DeGarmo's influence in creating the museum when he wrote, quote, "Your unselfish services and unswerving loyalty to the task has brought the museum from the state of a mere thought to a splendid concrete realization." Quote. "You have been the guiding spirit of a great work during its period of infancy." The cornerstone for the museum was laid December 21st, 1938. The 60-foot by 40-foot structure designed by Brock, Robert, and Anderson architects originally housed a science and industry gallery, an art and history gallery, an activity room, as well as central office and storage. The museum was formally dedicated May 18th, 1940. Area residents submitted pieces of pottery, old hymnals, crafted porcelain pieces, shawls, quilts, fans, and other items to be displayed at the museum. The Science and Industry Department held a model airplane exhibit, December 12, 1940. DeGarmo also invited community members to display works of art at the museum on a temporary basis, and art subsequently became the focus of the museum. In December 1939, DeGarmo, as president of the Women's Committee of the museum, joined with the Memorial Museum Association to organize a junior museum, inviting junior and senior high school students to submit exhibits to any one of the departments in the museum. They also organized field trips by the school kids in the area to study plant and animal life in its native habitat. Subsequently, the Junior Museum formed botany and entomology clubs. The museum served as the community center early on. Local Brownie and Girl Scout troops held a flower show at the museum in 1940. And by the end of that year, DeGarmo had organized regular free string concert and symphony concerts, string quartet and symphony concerts in the park adjacent to the museum. By 1941, the Women's Committee had created a civic club, a garden club, an alumni association, a colleges club, a service club, a patriotic club, and a war organization auxiliary, many of which met at the museum. The museum became a hub of community activity. It served as the site of art appreciation classes and art classes by 1941. Other activities organized at the museum in 1941 included folk dancing, sewing clubs, pottery making, storytelling, woodcraft, and dramatic presentations. By 1941, the museum held weekly broadcasts of the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City. These included performances of Madame Butterfly and I, Pagliacci. Rabbi Sidney Wolf gave lectures on these broadcasts at the museum. Beginning June 29, 1941, live weekly music performances at the museum by local musicians, high school bands, etc. were broadcast over KRIS radio to the surrounding listeners. Rabbi Wolf served as curator for the museum in this endeavor. Following the Second World War, the museum's industry or science and history components moved to a new location. The Centennial Memorial Museum became known as the Centennial Art Museum. South Texas Art League and later the Corpus Christi Art Guild held meetings and classes at the museum and displayed members' work there. By the late 1960s, the art endeavors outgrew the museum and eventually the Art Museum of South Texas was built. Mary DeGarmo, speaking on the importance of the museum project, stated, quote, "Wherever one goes, the progress and enlightenment of a community may be measured directly by the museum which it supports," unquote. DeGarmo formally stepped down from her role as director of the museum in September 1941, but remained involved in it until her death in 1953. Her work and that of Lily Rankin, Jeff Bell, and many others produced the Centennial Museum and thus shaped our modern community. The fruits of their labor can be seen today at the Art Museum of South Texas, the Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History, the Corpus Christi Symphony, the Succulent Society, the Garden Club, the Nueces County Historical Society, and the Corpus Christi Art Foundation.
Working on fundraising for Old Bayview Cemetery this morning. That's why Carol, our other members are not here.
We gotta split ourselves in two. Would anyone like to make a comment, Ben? Would you like to make a comment?
Finally, some shade. On behalf of the City of Corpus Christi, I'd like to thank you all on the Commission for all the hard work that you do and the dedication that you provide. These markers are important to our city, and we can't forget without you guys here leading that effort, a lot of our history, I am afraid, could be lost. So thank you all for that. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And if there's anything that we can do.
I'd like for everyone to notice who is representing the Historical Commission. If you'd raise your hand, please. And those of the Society, if you would raise your hands. And DRT, if you'd raise your hand. UDC, if you'd raise your hand. DAR, if you'd raise your hand. We have a lot of us that have interest in the history of Corpus Christi. And so we therefore truly thank you. And we also want you to know that that lady, Louise DeGarmo, had so much to do with what was going on in the history of that time. 2 years ago approximately, we did the marker over at Gold Star Court of Honor. She was responsible for that. And the Women's Monday Club, she inspired them. She wrote a book called The Pathfinders of Texas. And she was a winter tourist. She came for health reasons to Corpus Christi. And so we need to look a little bit more favorably on those who come to visit us at the end.
are part of the ongoing story of God's story. Would you join me as we pray once more? Oh Lord, we thank you for this reminder today and this permanent reminder of how you have worked here and the people that you have used and the way that they have glorified you. Lord, we ask your blessing now on the people who have been involved in this. We ask your blessing on this place and on this building that continues to serve us. And we pray your blessing on the Police Officers Association that uses it today, that they would impact the lives. And we pray that you would give us a sense of our place. I know. We had to pour it on each other. Down to the basement.
I interviewed her. Of course. I interviewed her the day before yesterday. So, is that right?
Yep. Actually, can I just stand? Let me.
So sorry.
6 o'clock.
Alright, I'm sure you get this all the time. Play basketball?
I did very badly. For 2 weeks.
A little bit more.
For 2 weeks.
So does it mean that just because you're taller than me?
Thank you.
She's gonna show off. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate
That's okay.
What else would I do on my birthday?
Oh, well,
You
congratulations.
waited to tell me till after I got done speaking.
Yeah, I got my daughter
I
in
said
that
if I had known, I would have gotten everyone to sing happy birthday. So
Sing it now.
This one we
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kathy. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
And many more.
On Channel 4. You can tell I'm not fine.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
one class.
Yeah, I'm gonna take care of it.
How you doing, Alan? A little warm, but that's fine.
And then it's the rest of the year.
We're heading home. You're heading home. My husband goes, you got your daughter, why don't you get yourself out?
Mike's it's right.
Right. Yeah, not that kind of doctor.
Yeah, then when my son goes, you're the nerd doctor. Yes, I'm the nerd doctor.
Yep.
All right.
Historical Commission.
Okay, Gil.
Can you let him take your camera? He's good, Mike.
I know.
He takes a big
I
camera.
know. He's got
I got all kinds
He's got a
of
real
cameras.
camera.
Let's see how you work this.
You got a real camera.
You get to keep your $100 bill. In a picture of your
There's no hiding.
We're in, Mike. Okay.
All right.
Some of us are short. And that's okay.
All right, we ready? Do one more. Well, maybe one more.
Some of us did
The beauty of cameras,
You're doing
you can always throw away. You can always
You
throw
get in there
away.
with him? Would I? Good.
Yes, please.
Come join.
Well, yeah,
There's a
because you remember
misfiring,
the.
ladies.
Come on, get close, Bill.
Ready, kids?
Everybody stop talking.
Gotcha.
Would y'all send me this picture for, I can put it on the commission Facebook page?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Oh, that's your pickup. It's
Woo, I'm telling you, he put some shine on that, didn't he?
Get him right now.
Ricky Simonized?
You can part your hair with that one.
Boy.
Brush your teeth.
Okay, we can go.
All righty.
Thank you.